The cargo ship Horizon's Dawn floated quietly through space. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge watching the stars. His blue uniform was simple, not military. Around him, his crew of 20 people worked at their stations. They were all civilians: scientists, engineers, doctors, farmers. No soldiers. Jack checked the time. They were 3 days from the nearest human colony. The ship carried medical supplies, seeds, and farming equipment. Nothing dangerous. No weapons at all. "Captain," said Amy Ross from the engineer station. Her voice was calm, but worried. "Something big just appeared on our sensors." Jack turned to look at the screen. A massive ship was approaching them. It was 10 times bigger than the Horizon's Dawn. Its hull was dark green and covered with spikes. Weapon ports lined its sides. "That's a Varkai warship," said Paul Green, the navigator. His hands shook slightly as he typed. "They're coming straight for us." Everyone on the bridge became quiet. The Varkai were known across the galaxy. They were warriors who conquered other species. They took prisoners and made them slaves. Worst of all, the human ships they captured never returned. "Open communications," Jack ordered. His voice stayed steady, though his heart beat fast. The main screen flickered. A huge alien face appeared. The Varkai commander had 6 red eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. His skin looked like green armor plates. Behind him stood more Varkai warriors, all carrying large weapons. "Human vessel," the commander said. His translator made his voice sound like grinding metal. "I am Commander Kriegtak of the Varkai Empire. You will surrender immediately." Jack stepped forward. "Commander, this is Captain Jack Miller. We are a civilian cargo ship. We carry no weapons, only medical supplies and food." Kriegtak's mandibles clicked together. It might have been a laugh. "No weapons? How stupid. Your weakness makes our job easier. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance means death." "We understand," Jack said. "We won't resist." The screen went black. Jack turned to face his crew. 20 faces looked back at him. Some were scared. Some were angry. All waited for his orders. "Listen carefully," Jack said quietly. "Everyone go to the cargo bay. Remember Emergency Protocol 7. Amy stood up from her station. "Captain, Protocol 7. Are you sure?" Jack nodded. "I'm sure. We practiced this. Trust the plan." Lisa Brown, the ship's doctor, gathered her medical bag. "The Varkai don't take prisoners. They take slaves. The colony ships that surrendered were never seen again," Jack finished. "I know. That's why we're using Protocol 7. Steve Coleman, the nurse, looked confused. "But we really don't have weapons. How can we fight them?" Jack smiled slightly. "Who said anything about fighting? Humans survived on Earth for thousands of years before we invented guns. We hunted mammoths with just spears and our brains. We crossed oceans in tiny boats. We lived in deserts and frozen wastelands. We don't need weapons to survive." The ship shuddered as the Varkai warship locked onto them. Through the windows, they could see a boarding tube extending from the alien vessel. "Everyone to the cargo bay," Jack repeated. "Stay calm. Remember your training. And remember, humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or having the biggest teeth." Ellen Park, the botanist, picked up her research case. "We survived by being smart. And by adapting," added Mike Davis, the ship's cook. "Exactly," Jack said. "Now let's show these aliens what humans can do without weapons." The crew filed out of the bridge. Jack took one last look at the approaching Varkai ship. The aliens thought humans were weak because they flew unarmed. They were about to learn that humans had other ways to defend themselves. Jack followed his crew to the cargo bay. The Varkai had superior weapons, armor, and strength. But humans had something else. They had survived ice ages, predators, diseases, and disasters. They had spread across Earth and then across the stars. Now they would survive this too. without firing a single shot. The cargo bay doors opened with a loud hiss. 20 humans stood in neat rows, hands empty and visible. The Varkey warriors marched in, their heavy boots making the metal floor shake. Each alien stood 8 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in natural armor that looked like green plates. They carried plasma rifles and blade weapons. Commander Creed Tack entered last. Up close, he was even more frightening. His 6 eyes moved independently, scanning the humans. His breathing sounded like a broken fan. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked with each word. "So few of you," he said, "and so small. How does your species even survive?" Jack stood at the front of his crew. "We manage, Commander." Creed Tack walked along the line of humans. He stopped in front of Lisa Brown. The doctor didn't move, even when the alien leaned close enough that she could smell his breath. It smelled like rotting meat. "This one is weak," Creed Tack announced. "Too soft for labor. Kill her." A warrior raised his weapon. Lisa's eyes widened, but she didn't run. "Wait," Jack said quickly. "She's our doctor. If you want healthy workers, you need her alive." Creed Tack's eyes swiveled to look at Jack. After a long moment, he made a gesture. The warrior lowered his gun. "Fine, but any resistance, and she dies first." The commander turned to his warriors. "Search the ship. Find their weapons." "As I told you," Jack said, "we don't carry weapons." "Every species carries weapons," Creed Tack replied. "You lie because you are afraid." 10 Varkey warriors spread through the ship while 10 more guarded the humans. The ones who stayed looked bored. To them, watching unarmed humans was easy duty. Amy Ross raised her hand slightly. "Commander, may we sit? Standing is tiring for humans." Creed Tack's translator made a sound like breaking glass. Maybe it was another laugh. "Weak creatures. Yes, sit. It matters not." The humans sat on the cargo bay floor. As they did, Amy caught the eye of Tom Harris and Julie Martinez. They nodded slightly. The first part of Protocol 7 was starting. In the corner, Mike Davis spoke to a guard. "You must be hungry after your journey. Humans need to eat often. May I prepare food?" The guard looked at his commander. Creed Tack waved a claw. "Feed them if you must, but you stay here where we can watch." Mike smiled. "Of course. I have portable cooking equipment right here." He opened a nearby crate and began setting up a small field kitchen. The searching warriors returned. Their leader, Sub-Commander Vextor, looked frustrated. "No weapons, Commander. Nothing. They speak truth." "Impossible," Creed Tack snarled. "Search again." We scanned every room. Their cargo is seeds, medical supplies, and farming tools. They don't even have knives longer than eating utensils. The commander's 6 eyes narrowed. He looked at Jack with new interest. "No species travels space without weapons. How do you defend against pirates?" "Against creatures like us." Jack shrugged. "We avoid conflict. We run if we must. Humans prefer peace." "Peace," Creed Tack spat the word. "Peace is for the weak. The strong take what they want." He turned to his warriors. "Put guards in every section. Watch them constantly. When we reach our space, they become laborers." Paul Green spoke up. "What happened to the other human ships? The ones that surrendered to you before?" Creed Tack's mandibles spread wide. All the humans recognized it as a smile, though not a pleasant one. "They work in our minds now. Or they did. Humans break easily." The cargo bay fell silent. The humans looked at each other. They all understood. Surrender meant slavery and death. Mike Davis had finished preparing his first batch of food. The smell filled the cargo bay. Several Varkey guards turned their heads, their nostrils flaring. "Would your warriors like to try some?" Mike offered. "I made plenty." Vextor stepped forward. "What is it?" "Just a simple human meal. Rice, beans, some spices, high in carbohydrates and sugars. Good for energy." The sub-commander looked at his superior. Krieg Tak nodded. Test it for poison first. Mike ate a spoonful himself. See, perfectly safe. The guards began to eat. As they did, Amy Ross leaned toward the ventilation controls on the wall. Her fingers moved quickly over the panel. In engineering, environmental systems began to change. The first phase of Protocol 7 was now fully active. Amy Ross worked quietly at her engineering station. Two Varki guards watched her, but they didn't understand human technology. To them, she was just checking normal ship systems. They didn't know she was changing the air mixture throughout the ship. Oxygen down to 19%, Tom Harris whispered as he passed by with a toolbox. Carbon dioxide rising slowly, Julie Martinez added from another console. 1.8% now. Amy nodded slightly. Humans could handle these changes. They lived in mountains where air was thin. They worked in mines where carbon dioxide was high. But the Varki came from a world with very stable atmosphere. Their bodies weren't built for changes. In the medical bay, Lisa Brown prepared her supplies. A guard watched her every move. "What are you doing?" the guard asked. His breathing sounded heavier than before. "Preparing vitamin supplements." Lisa lied smoothly. She filled syringes with stimulants that would help humans stay alert as the air got worse. We humans need many chemicals to stay healthy. The guard's 6 eyes blinked slowly. He seemed tired. Your species is badly designed. So many weaknesses. Lisa smiled. We adapt instead of being perfect. Steve Coleman helped her organize the syringes. When the guard looked away, they hid several in their pockets. Later, they would secretly inject the other crew members. Back in the cargo bay, more guards were eating Mike's food. The chef had prepared several dishes now. Each one was heavy with sugars and simple carbohydrates, foods that gave humans quick energy, but made the Varki sluggish. "This is excellent," Sub-Commander Vextor said. His speech was slower than before. "What do you call this?" "Pasta with sweet sauce," Mike replied. "Very popular on Earth. Would you like more?" "Yes." Vextor sat heavily on a crate. "Bring more." Commander Krieg Tak noticed his warriors moving more slowly. "What's wrong with you all?" "Stay alert." "Sorry, Commander," Vextor mumbled. "Just tired from the boarding action." Krieg Tak's eyes narrowed, but then he yawned. His mandibles opened wide, showing rows of teeth. He shook his head angrily. In the environmental control room, Carl Johnson watched his displays. The temperature was rising very slowly, just 1 degree every 30 minutes. Humans barely noticed such small changes. But the Varki came from a cool world. 26 degrees Celsius, Beth Cooper reported. Their home planet averages 18 degrees. Carl smiled grimly. We're not even close to human limits yet. Throughout the ship, the effects were starting to show. Varki guards leaned against walls. They breathed more deeply. Some removed their helmet units, trying to cool down. In the mess hall, a guard stumbled and caught himself against a table. Ellen Park, the botanist, looked concerned. "Are you all right?" The guard's translator crackled. "Fine. Just, your ship gravity feels wrong." Ellen nodded sympathetically. Space travel can be disorienting. She didn't mention that Dan White and Karen Lee were slowly increasing the artificial gravity. It was now 1.2 times Earth normal. Humans trained for this. The Varki didn't. On the bridge, Bill Taylor sat at his communication station. A guard stood behind him, but the alien was swaying slightly. "You humans," the guard muttered. "How do you live like this?" "The air feels thick. Everything is heavy." Bill kept his face neutral. "You get used to it." The guard's 6 eyes weren't focusing properly. He leaned heavily on his rifle. Maybe I should sit." "Of course," Bill said helpfully. He pushed a chair toward the guard. "Everyone needs rest sometimes." As the guard sat, Bill caught Jack Miller's eye. The captain was watching from across the bridge. Jack nodded slightly. The plan was working. In engineering, Amy checked her readings one more time. The air mixture was perfect for humans, but increasingly uncomfortable for their captors. The temperature was climbing steadily. Gravity was above Varkey comfort levels. Phase 1 complete, she whispered to Julie. Julie smiled. Amazing how they thought we were weak. We are weak, Amy replied quietly. But we're also adaptable. And sometimes that's better than strength. Around the ship, more guards were sitting down. Some were breathing hard. None of them realized what was happening. They thought they were just tired. They had no idea the humans were turning their own ship into a weapon. Mike Davis had turned the mess hall into a Varkey feeding station. The aliens couldn't resist the smell of his cooking. More warriors left their posts to eat, drawn by their hungry companions' enthusiasm. Try this, Mike said, serving a guard a plate of glazed meat. It's covered in sugar sauce. Very energy-rich. The guard took a huge bite. His 6 eyes closed in pleasure. Better than Varkey military rations, he mumbled through full mandibles. Mike had studied alien biochemistry during training. He knew exactly what he was doing. The foods he chose were perfectly safe, but had specific effects on Varkey metabolism. Heavy sugars caused their equivalent of a sugar crash. Certain proteins made them drowsy. Processed carbohydrates slowed their reflexes. More, demanded another guard, pushing forward. His movements were clumsy. He bumped into a table and nearly fell. In the corner of the mess hall, Ellen Park offered drinks to the feeding warriors. This is coffee, she explained. Humans drink it to stay awake. The Varkey grabbed the cups eagerly. They didn't know that caffeine, which kept humans alert, acted like a sedative on their nervous system. Within minutes of drinking, their eyelids grew heavy. Commander Krieg Tak entered the mess hall and stopped in shock. Half his warriors were sitting on the floor, eating and drinking. Some were actually dozing. What is this? He roared. Get back to your posts. The warriors struggled to stand. Several swayed on their feet. Sub-Commander Vextor tried to salute but missed his own head. Commander, Vextor said slowly, the human's food. It gives energy. But then, Krieg Tak grabbed a plate from the nearest warrior and threw it against the wall. No more eating. Something is wrong here. But even as he shouted, Krieg Tak felt strange. His own breathing was labored. His armor felt impossibly heavy. The room seemed too bright and too hot. Commander, one guard panted, the air. It's hard to breathe. Krieg Tak checked his atmospheric sensor. The readings looked normal for a human ship, but why did he feel so weak? In the medical bay, Lisa Brown moved among the human crew, quietly injecting them with stimulants. The drugs helped them handle the low oxygen and high carbon dioxide. She reached Paul Green at his navigation station. How are you feeling? She whispered while pretending to check his pulse. Fine, Paul replied. The Varkey guard behind me keeps yawning, though. Lisa glanced at the guard. His 6 eyes were barely open. His grip on his weapon was loose. She gave Paul the injection and moved on. Steve Coleman was distributing water bottles to the humans. The bottles contained electrolyte solutions that helped with the rising temperature. Humans could sweat to cool down. The Varkey couldn't. Drink slowly, Steve advised Amy Ross. Make it last. Amy sipped her water while watching her engineering console. Temperature at 30 degrees. Gravity at 1.3. Carbon dioxide at 2.5%. How much more can we push it? Steve asked. Humans can handle much worse, Amy said. But I don't think we'll need to go much further. She was right. Around the ship, Varkey warriors were struggling. In the cargo bay, 3 guards had sat down and couldn't get back up. Their heavy exoskeletons, perfect for their low-gravity world, were crushing them in the increased gravity. On the bridge, the guard watching Bill Taylor suddenly collapsed. His weapon clattered across the floor. Bill quickly kicked it under his console. Guard down on the bridge, Bill reported into his headset. Similar reports came from all over the ship. Guards were falling asleep, passing out, or simply too weak to stand. Their natural armor had become a prison as the gravity increased. Their efficient metabolism crashed as the wrong foods flooded their systems. Commander Creed Tack tried to stay standing through pure will. His 6 eyes darted around, trying to understand what was happening. He saw his warriors falling one by one. He saw the humans still moving normally, even looking stronger than before. "Impossible," he gasped. "You have no weapons." "How?" Jack Miller walked toward him slowly. The human captain looked calm and steady. "Commander, I think you should sit down before you fall down." Creed Tack raised his weapon with shaking arms, but the gravity was too much. The rifle felt like it weighed a ton. His arms dropped. His legs buckled. The mighty Varkey commander fell to his knees. The temperature controls were Dan White's specialty. He sat at his station, making tiny adjustments to the ship's heating system. Beside him, Karen Lee monitored the readings with scientific precision. 33 degrees Celsius, Karen reported. "That's 91 Fahrenheit for the Americans on board." Dan smiled. "Still comfortable for humans, deadly for our guests." He was right. All around the ship, Varkey warriors were suffering from heat exhaustion. Their home planet never got warmer than what humans called a cool spring day. Their bodies couldn't handle Earth desert temperatures. A guard near Dan's station was panting heavily. His green armor plates had darkened with moisture. The Varkey were trying to sweat, but their bodies weren't designed for it. "Water," the guard gasped. "Need water." Beth Cooper appeared with a bottle. "Here you go." She helped the guard drink. The water was body temperature, providing no cooling effect. The guard didn't notice. He was too desperate. In the engine room, more guards had removed pieces of their armor. They lay on the metal floor, trying to find cool spots. Their breathing was shallow and rapid. Carl Johnson watched them with fake concern. "The engine room is always the warmest part of the ship. Maybe you should move to a cooler area." "Can't move," one guard moaned. "Too heavy. Everything too heavy." The artificial gravity was now at 1.4 Earth normal. For humans who exercised regularly and evolved on a high-gravity world, it was manageable. For the Varkey, it was torture. Their exoskeletons, which made them look so fierce, were their weakness. The chitinous plates that protected them in battle now crushed them under their own weight. Evolution had made them perfect for their world, but helpless in human conditions. On the bridge, Commander Creed Tack was still on his knees. His 6 eyes were unfocused. Sweat poured from gaps in his armor. He tried to speak, but only managed to wheeze. Jack Miller crouched beside him. "Commander, you need medical attention. Let my doctor help you." Creed Tack's mandibles moved weakly. "Trick," he gasped. "Human trick." "No trick," Jack said calmly. "Just biology. Your species evolved for specific conditions. So did ours. The difference is, we evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Extreme heat, bitter cold, thin air, diseases, predators. Earth made us adaptable." Lisa Brown arrived with her medical kit. She checked Creed Tack's vital signs, her movements professional and careful. "Severe heat exhaustion, dehydration, gravity stress. He needs immediate treatment." "Do it," Jack ordered. Lisa began attaching cooling packs to the commander's armor joints. She injected fluids to help with dehydration. Her hands were gentle, even though this alien had threatened to kill her hours ago. Around the ship, the human crew was collecting weapons from unconscious guards. They moved efficiently, securing each Varkey warrior with their own restraints. The tables had completely turned. Amy Ross's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, all Varkey personnel are down. None dead, but all incapacitated. Reduce gravity to normal," Jack ordered. "Lower temperature to 25 degrees. Bring oxygen back to standard." The changes happened slowly. They didn't want to shock the Varkey systems further. As conditions normalized, some of the aliens began to stir. Sub-Commander Vextor opened his eyes to find himself restrained. Mike Davis sat nearby, no longer the harmless cook, but clearly in control. The food, Vextor mumbled. You poisoned us. Mike shook his head. Not poison. Just chemistry. Your metabolism couldn't handle the sugar overload, combined with caffeine, which sedates your species, and the environmental stress. Well, you never had a chance. In the medical bay, Lisa had set up a field hospital. Varkey warriors lay on cots, receiving fluids and cooling treatments. Steve Coleman helped her monitor their recovery. They'll all live, Lisa announced. No permanent damage. Jack nodded, satisfied. Good. We're not killers. We just needed to survive. Bill Taylor had already sent a message to the Varkey fleet. The communications officer looked up from his station. Captain, we're receiving a response. They want to know the status of their boarding party. Jack straightened his uniform. Tell them their people are alive and receiving medical care. And tell them we're ready to discuss terms. The bridge fell silent. They had done the impossible. 20 unarmed humans had defeated 30 Varkey warriors without firing a shot, without throwing a punch, without anyone dying. They had won with nothing but knowledge and adaptation. As the temperature dropped back to normal, the Varkey warriors slowly regained consciousness. They found themselves in a very different situation than before. Now they were the prisoners, restrained with their own equipment, while the humans moved freely around them. Carl Johnson and Beth Cooper adjusted the environmental controls carefully. They'd brought the temperature down to 22 degrees Celsius, comfortable for both species. The gravity returned to Earth normal, then slightly below to help the Varkey recover. Oxygen back to 21%, Carl reported. Carbon dioxide at normal levels. Beth nodded. Their breathing is already improving. In the cargo bay, which had become a makeshift recovery ward, the Varkey warriors sat in confused silence. Their weapons were stacked neatly in a corner, guarded by Tom Harris and Julie Martinez. The two engineers didn't look like soldiers, but they handled the alien weapons with careful respect. Commander Creed Tack was the last to fully wake. He found himself sitting on a medical cot, cooling packs still attached to his armor. Lisa Brown stood nearby, checking his vital signs on a portable monitor. Your temperature is back to normal, she told him. How do you feel? Creed Tack stared at her with all 6 eyes. You saved me, after I threatened to kill you. Lisa shrugged. I'm a doctor. I save lives. It's what I do. The commander looked around the cargo bay. His warriors were alive, recovering, but definitely defeated. The humans moved among them, providing water, food, and medical care. Not the actions of conquerors, but of healers. I don't understand, Creed Tack said slowly. You had no weapons. How did you defeat us? Jack Miller approached, carrying a data tablet. Would you like me to explain? Creed Tack nodded weakly. Jack sat on a nearby crate. Your species evolved on Varkan Prime. Gravity there is about 70% of Earth's. Your atmosphere is stable. Temperature rarely varies. No major predators challenged your ancestors after you developed intelligence. Yes, Creed Tack agreed. We achieved perfection early in our evolution. But that's your weakness, Jack continued. Humans evolved differently. Earth tried to kill us constantly. Ice ages froze us. Deserts baked us. Diseases ravaged our populations. Predators hunted us. We had to adapt or die. Paul Green joined the conversation. We can survive in temperatures from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius. We can breathe thin mountain air or work in mines with high carbon dioxide. We can handle gravity variations that would cripple other species. Ellen Park added, we learned to eat almost anything. Our digestive systems process foods that are toxic to many aliens. We turned sugars and caffeine into energy, while they sedate your species. Creed Tack's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. You used our biology against us. Not against you, Jack corrected. We simply created conditions we could tolerate, and you couldn't. No one died. No one was permanently harmed. We just proved that weapons aren't the only form of strength. The Varkay Sub-Commander Vextor spoke up. But why spare us? We would have enslaved you. Mike Davis answered from where he was preparing normal food for the aliens. Because we're not you. Humans can be violent when necessary, but we prefer cooperation. We'd rather make friends than enemies. Friends? Krieg Tak sounded confused. After we attacked you. Amy Ross stepped forward. You attacked because you thought we were weak. Now you know better. So let's start over. Our species have different strengths. Imagine what we could accomplish together. The cargo bay fell quiet as the Varkay considered this. They had never been defeated in combat before. They had certainly never been spared by those they tried to conquer. Bill Taylor's voice came over the intercom. Captain, the Varkay fleet commander wants to speak with you. They're demanding an explanation. Jack stood. Commander Krieg Tak, would you like to join me? Perhaps you should explain to your fleet what happened here. Krieg Tak struggled to his feet. The gravity still felt heavy, but manageable now. Yes, they must know the truth. As they walked to the bridge, Krieg Tak studied the human captain. Your species confuses me. You appear weak but prove strong. You defeat enemies but show mercy. What are you? Jack smiled. We're survivors, Commander, and we've learned that sometimes the best way to survive is to turn enemies into allies. The humans worked with quick efficiency as the last Varkay warrior was secured. They collected the alien weapons carefully, storing them in locked containers. No one celebrated or showed triumph. They moved like professionals doing a necessary job. Karen Lee and Dan White supervised the final restraint checks. The Varkay were bound with their own equipment, but not uncomfortably. Each alien had water within reach and enough room to sit properly. All 30 warriors accounted for, Karen reported to Jack. No injuries beyond exhaustion and dehydration. Dan added, we've adjusted the temperature to their comfort zone. Gravity is at 90% Earth normal. They'll recover faster this way. Jack nodded. Good work. Keep monitoring their vitals. In the medical bay, Lisa Brown and Steve Coleman had converted the space into a recovery unit. 8 of the most affected Varkay lay on cots, receiving IV fluids. The aliens watched the humans with something between fear and wonder. Your healing skills are impressive, one warrior admitted to Steve. We thought humans were primitive. Steve smiled as he adjusted an IV line. We've had lots of practice. Humans get hurt often. We had to get good at fixing ourselves. Across the ship, the crew maintained their calm professionalism. Ellen Park distributed water bottles to the prisoners. Carl Johnson checked environmental readings every few minutes. Beth Cooper helped organize the captured weapons. The Varkay noticed everything. They saw how the humans worked together without shouting or arguing. They watched Amy Ross give quiet orders that were followed instantly. They observed how even the cook and the botanist knew exactly what to do. They moved like a military unit, Sub-Commander Vextor muttered to another warrior. But they claimed to be civilians. The other warrior nodded slowly. Perhaps all humans train for combat, even their farmers and healers. On the bridge, Bill Taylor had established clear communication with the Varkay fleet. 20 warships waited in space, their commanders growing impatient. Horizons dawn. This is Fleet Commander Drex March. You will explain immediately why our boarding party is not responding. Jack took the communications console. Beside him stood Commander Krieg Tak, still weak but determined to speak. Fleet Commander, this is Captain Jack Miller. Your boarding party is safe. Commander Krieg Tak wishes to report. There was silence. Then Drexmar's voice boomed through the speakers. Krieg Tak, what happened? Why do you let this human speak? Krieg Tak leaned toward the microphone. His voice was steady despite his exhaustion. Fleet Commander, the humans have defeated us without weapons. All 30 warriors were captured. None were killed. Impossible. Drexmar roared. Humans are weak. They have no armor, no claws, no warrior tradition. They have something else. Krieg Tak replied. They have adaptation. They changed their ship's environment to disable us. They used our own biology as a weapon. Paul Green whispered to Amy Ross. Think they'll believe it? Annie whispered back. They'll have to. The evidence is right here. The fleet commander's voice turned suspicious. You were tricked by cowardly methods. We will destroy them and rescue you. No, Krieg Tak said firmly. They could have killed us all. Instead, they provided medical care. They showed mercy to defeated enemies. This is not cowardice. This is different. Jack spoke up. Fleet Commander Drexmar, we propose a trade agreement instead of conflict. Your people have strength and advanced weapons. We have adaptability and resource management. Together, we could benefit both species. You dare propose alliance after defeating our warriors. Especially after that, Jack said calmly. We've proven we're not easy prey. But we've also shown we prefer peace. Your choice. Continue fighting and risk more defeats, or talk and possibly gain a valuable partner. The bridge fell silent. Everyone waited for Drexmar's response. The Varkay warriors in the cargo bay listened through the ship's communication system. Even they seemed to hold their breath. Tom Harris muttered to Julie Martinez, This is it. Either they attack or we make history. Julie nodded. Funny how 20 civilians with no weapons might create the first human-Varkey alliance. Finally, Drexmar spoke. Commander Krieg Tak, do you recommend negotiations? Krieg Tak looked at Jack Miller. The human captain stood relaxed but alert, ready for either peace or battle. The commander had seen enough. Yes, Fleet Commander. I recommend we talk. The humans have earned that much. 3 days later, the conference room on the Horizon's Dawn hosted its first interspecies negotiation. Captain Jack Miller sat across from Commander Krieg Tak, who had fully recovered. Between them lay a draft treaty that would change both civilizations forever. Lisa Brown and Steve Coleman attended as medical advisors. Amy Ross represented the engineering team. Even Mike Davis was there, having proven that food could be either a weapon or a bridge between species. Krieg Tak studied the document carefully. This treaty grants humans safe passage through Varkey space. In exchange, you offer agricultural technology and medical knowledge. Jack nodded. Your worlds struggle with food production. Our farming methods could triple your harvests, and our medical techniques work on Varkey physiology, as you've seen. You ask for no military alliance. Krieg Tak seemed puzzled. No weapons technology. Amy leaned forward. We've survived this long without advanced weapons. What we need are trading partners, not more ways to kill. The commander's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. He had spent 3 days recovering on the human ship. He had watched the crew work, seen their cooperation, experienced their mercy. Everything he thought he knew about strength had changed. My people value warriors above all, Krieg Tak said slowly. But you have shown that survival requires more than force. Perhaps it is time we learned other ways. Through the windows, the Varkey fleet was visible. 20 warships that could have destroyed the Horizon's Dawn in seconds. Instead, they waited peacefully while their commander negotiated. Bill Taylor entered with a message. Captain, Fleet Commander Drexmar sends his compliments. He's ready to sign if you reach agreement. Krieg Tak stood up. Before I sign, I must know something. Why did you spare us? You could have killed us all when we were helpless. Jack stood too, meeting the alien's eyes. Because dead enemies teach nothing. But living ones can become friends. Humans learned that lesson through thousands of years of war. We prefer not to repeat old mistakes. And if we had succeeded in enslaving you, Lisa Brown answered quietly, then other human ships would have learned from our failure. They would have adapted new defenses. Your next encounter might not have ended so peacefully. Krieg Tak nodded slowly. I understand now. Your species' strength is not in individuals, but in learning, adapting, improving. You make the entire species stronger with each challenge. He picked up the ceremonial pen and signed the treaty. As he did, he said, "The Varkey have conquered 40 species. You are the first to defeat us, and the first to offer friendship afterward." Jack signed his name below creed tax. Maybe other species will learn from this. Conflict doesn't have to end in conquest. As the documents were copied and transmitted to both fleets, the crew of the Horizon's Dawn began to relax. They had done something incredible. 20 civilians had turned a certain defeat into a diplomatic victory. Later, as the Varkey prepared to return to their ships, Sub-Commander Vextor approached Mike Davis. "Your food. Could you teach our cooks to make it properly, without the strategic additions?" Mike laughed. "Of course. I'll send you recipes adjusted for Varkey metabolism. Real cultural exchange starts with sharing meals." Ellen Park gave botanical samples to a Varkey scientist. Carl Johnson shared atmospheric data. Even Dan White explained gravity adjustment techniques to interested warriors. As Commander Creed Tack boarded his shuttle, he turned to Jack one last time. "Captain Miller, I have a message for your Earth government. The Varkey Empire officially lists humans as a protected species. Any attack on human vessels will be considered an attack on the Empire itself." Jack's eyes widened. "That's unexpected. Thank you." Creed Tack's mandibles spread in what the humans now recognized as a smile. "We protect valuable allies, and we've learned that humans are very valuable indeed." The shuttle departed. The Varkey fleet turned and jumped to hyperspace. On the bridge of the Horizon's Dawn, the crew watched them go. Paul Green broke the silence. "Did we just become the first humans to turn a hostile first contact into an alliance?" Amy Ross grinned. "We did it without firing a shot." Jack looked at his crew. 20 civilians who had changed history. No weapons, no armor, just humans being human. Sometimes that's enough. The Horizon's Dawn continued its journey, carrying more than supplies now. It carried proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in weapons or armor, but in the minds that could turn any challenge into an opportunity. And across the galaxy, the story began to spread. The humans were coming, and they didn't need weapons to win.